I had just stepped out of my old silver Ford Fusion when I heard Derek's voice cut through the air like a spotlight. Yo, you really pulling up to the Riverside Club in that? He was across the lot, but loud enough that heads turned. A couple near the valet paused mid-conversation. Even the valet kid smirked. I didn't say anything at first, just closed my door and locked it like nothing happened. But Derek wouldn't let it go. Don't come around here in that junk, man. Makes the rest of us look broke. Before I could respond, Lana chimed in, flipping her hair as she clicked across the pavement in heels. Seriously, it's like pulling up in a rental from 2012. We're not trying to be rude. She turned to the couple nearby with a fake-ass smile. But this isn't the Olive Garden. I clenched my jaw, nodded once. It runs fine. That's all I said. Quiet, calm, like I'd practiced for this. Lana rolled her eyes. It's not about fine. It's about standards. I could feel it. Eyes on me, whispers behind me, that hot pressure building between my shoulders. I didn't say another word, just walked past them and headed for the front entrance. That wasn't even the first round of judgment tonight. Dad was waiting at the club entrance when I pulled in, glanced at his watch like I'd missed a court hearing. Dinner started 15 minutes ago, he said flatly. No hello, no, good to see you. Just a reminder I was late. At the table it was non-stop. Derek bragging about some real estate development deal in Charlotte. Lana talking about her third store opening in Nashville. Even Mom threw in, name-dropping some plastic surgeon the mayor's son had just partnered with. Then it was my turn. So, how's your little tech tutoring thing going? Derek asked, barely looking up from his ribeye. I teach basic skills to guys trying to get into digital jobs. A lot of them are coming from factory work, so... That's adorable, Lana cut in. Like community service with a paycheck. Mom sipped her wine, leaned in. You know, Melissa Henderson's twins just finished med school at Hopkins. That's impact. I sat there, barely chewing, while they talked over me like I was some high school dropout who showed up with a cardboard resume. By dessert, I felt like a damn charity case they tolerated once a quarter, like I'd chosen poverty for fun. And now, outside, my car was the punchline. Quick note, before we go any further, tell us which city or country you're watching from. I didn't come to flex, but if that's the game they wanted to play, fine. I reached the entrance, nodded at the valet, and walked inside without looking back. After dinner, I was halfway to my car when I heard them coming behind me, heels clicking, dress shoes scuffing the pavement. I didn't turn around, just kept walking, hoping they'd drop it. But no, this was an ambush. Hey, Derek called out. You're not leaving already. I hit the unlock button on my key fob and didn't answer. Seriously, he said, stepping in front of me like some motivational speaker about to launch into a TED Talk. You're 36, man. 36. When are you going to start taking your life seriously? Lana stopped next to him, arms folded tight, like she was here to back up the facts. You still live like someone just out of college. That car, that house you rent. She looked at me like I was holding them back from a group prayer. This is not a phase anymore. It's pathetic. I didn't flinch, just stared at the lot lights bouncing off her Audi, waiting for them to run out of steam. Dad caught up and stood behind them, rubbing his temples like he was trying to summon patience. You think scraping by is some kind of badge of honor? He asked. You've got no real assets, no equity. What are you even building? I finally looked at him. I own a house, I said, calm. You own a house technically, Derek cut in. In Millcrest Hills? That's like saying you own a sandwich if you're still paying for the bread. I opened my door and tossed my jacket inside. Didn't get in yet. You should be in a corporate role by now, Lana said. Consulting, software, something with real scale. You're still playing in the kiddie pool. I shrugged. I train people in tech. It's real enough for them. Derek raised his eyebrows like I'd just said I babysat cats. It's a joke. You're better than this. You're just stuck in some martyr complex. They were circling me now, all three of them, like I was some confused stray who needed to be guided back to the pound. Son, Dad said, voice low like he was trying to be gentle. Success isn't just surviving. It's about impact. You're a smart kid. You should be leading something, not handing out cheat sheets to warehouse guys. I nodded once and leaned against the door. Done talking? Lana laughed under her breath. God, you're so stubborn. Do you even hear yourself? I hear you. Loud and clear. Derek stepped closer. We're trying to help you, man. You're the only one in this family still pretending life's about principles instead of outcomes. This is the real world. No one gives a damn how hard you try, just what you can show for it. I pushed off the door and faced him. And what do you want me to show? Something. Anything? Net worth, returns, equity, hell, even just a real car. Right now, all you've got is vibes. I almost laughed. Vibes. That's what he thought this was. I glanced at my watch. I'd left a leadership summit early to make it to this dinner. Closed my laptop at 4, skipped a debrief call, put off a VC firm follow-up until morning, just to get torn apart in a parking lot by people who measured success in zip codes and lease payments. They didn't know that. Didn't even think to ask. You done? I asked again. Lana looked at me like I'd failed a pop quiz. You really don't care what people think, do you? Nope. Derek threw his hands up. Then don't be shocked when no one takes you seriously. You're just wasting time and potential. That's the real shame. I opened the door fully and got in. Think about it, okay? Dad said. Just think about what your life could look like if you aimed a little higher. I pulled the door shut and started the engine. They stood there watching me like they expected me to roll down the window and say, "You're right." Instead, I eased the car out of the spot, calm as hell. I didn't bother looking in the rearview mirror. They were already behind me. I was 3 turns from home when I noticed the headlights still behind me, tight, low to the ground, Derek's damn Porsche. He wasn't done. I pulled into Millcrest Hills, where porches were small, driveways short, and nobody bragged about anything. That's why I liked it. I coasted down the street, past trimmed hedges and front yards with solar lights, turned into my driveway. House looked the same as always, 2-story brick, plain shutters, no flashy landscaping. Derek pulled in right behind me and parked half up the curb. He jumped out like he was still mid-argument. "You've been here, what, 5 years?" he barked, striding up the walk like he owned the deed. 5 years and nothing's changed. Same car, same place, same boring life. That doesn't bother you? I didn't say anything, just unlocked the door and let him keep going. "You're 36, man," he said again. "You should have moved up by now, at least made some visible progress, something people can actually see. What are you even doing?" I turned and faced him, calm. "You want to see my car collection?" That stopped him cold. He blinked like he misheard me. "What?" I nodded toward the side of the house. "Garage entrance is this way." He hesitated but followed, all cocky shoulders and confused eyes. I punched in the code, the side door unlocked, and I led him through a narrow hallway into the back garage. Fluorescents flickered on. The temperature-controlled air hit with a low hum. There it was. Graphite McLaren GT, polished like a damn mirror. Candy red Porsche 911 Turbo S, sitting like it just rolled off the line. Blacked out rolls, Royce Ghost. Quiet, thick, and mean. Derek stopped walking. Didn't blink, didn't breathe. I stood there next to him, arms folded. "Still think the Fusion's the whole story?" I asked. He didn't answer, just stared, jaw slightly open, like his brain was buffering. I walked over and tapped the McLaren's roof. "This one's never even seen rain." He finally found his voice. "What the hell is this?" I tilted my head. "You said I should show proof of progress." His eyes were bouncing from one car to the next, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. These are yours?" "No, Derek. I leased them for Instagram." He looked at me, dead serious, like he wasn't sure if I was messing with him or not. I nodded. "They're mine, paid off, title's in the safe." He stepped toward the rolls, ran a hand along the fender like it might disappear. "You've had this stuff the whole time?" I leaned back against the wall, watching him squirm. "Long enough." He turned around, arms slack at his sides. "You've been sitting on this and showing up in a Fusion?" "Because I don't need strangers to clap for me every time I park." Derek finally blinked, then turned to me like I'd just confessed to robbing a bank. "Okay, what the hell is going on?" he asked, his voice low and sharp. "How are you affording this? The cars, this garage? This isn't tech tutoring. You don't make McLaren money teaching guys how to set up Gmail." I nodded once, slow. "You're right, I don't." He folded his arms and waited. "I own 3 workforce education platforms," I said. "Not side hustles, full-scale ops. We train laid-off workers, ex-military, underfunded school systems, anybody who needs digital trades to stay relevant." He raised an eyebrow. "Platforms?" Custom-built systems, I said. Each one focused on different tiers of technical skill. One's built around reskilling factory workers. Another helps community colleges integrate real-time trade simulations. And the third connects rural high schools to remote learning certifications. Derek shook his head like I was speaking another language. So, what? You built apps? No, I built ecosystems, I said. Software, curriculum, licensing, hardware partnerships, analytics, all of it. We work with the Department of Labor, 14 state college systems, and half the Fortune 100. He blinked again. You're serious? We cleared $71 million in revenue last year, I said flatly. 48% margins. He opened his mouth, then shut it. Looked back at the cars. And you never said anything? He asked. You never asked, I said. He let out a small breath, like he was trying to wrap his brain around the shift. But you drive a Fusion. You live here. Why? I turned and walked to the window on the back wall of the garage, tapped the glass. You see that? He stepped beside me and looked through the window. His eyes narrowed. My dev setup sat in the converted den, 12 monitors across 2 L-shaped desks, custom-built rigs humming in the corner, studio lighting, dual fiber lines, and a $14,000 ergonomic chair that looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. That's where I work, I said. 100 grand in gear, data mirrors, sandbox systems, live staging environments. That Fusion you keep clowning? I built half of this while sitting in the back seat during site visits. What started there grew into this lab once the system scaled. Derek turned toward me, quieter now. So, you've just been building this behind the scenes? I nodded. While you were measuring square footage and lease payments, I was building infrastructure. He looked back at the room through the window, watching the servers glow in the dim light like they were breathing. Jesus, he muttered. We've trained over 120,000 people so far, I said. Real certifications, real outcomes. A guy who used to drive forklifts just got hired as a network admin for a hospital in Phoenix. Another built a whole IT team for a school district in South Carolina. Derek was still standing there, like the air had left the room. I never cared about impressing you, I said. I care about reach. I care about results. If the Fusion got me there, that's all I needed. He nodded slowly, still staring through the window. This is insane, he said. I thought you were scraping by. Because you wanted to, I said. It was easier to see me as the underachiever than to imagine I passed you 10 exits ago. That one landed. He didn't deny it. This garage, I said, motioning around us. This is just the tip. He finally turned to face me again, arms still at his sides. I spent years building what you all mocked, and I did it bigger, better, and quieter. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. Derek was still staring through the garage window, trying to process it, when I nudged his elbow. Come on, I said. There's more. We stepped outside and followed the side path behind the house. The yard was quiet, fenced, nothing fancy, just clean grass, some motion lights, trimmed hedges. At the back of the lot sat a sleek black building with glass paneling and matte steel trim. Derek squinted at it. What's that? Pool house? I smirked. Not quite. I unlocked the glass door and waved him in. The lights came on automatically, motion sensors. Inside, the space opened up into 2 full floors of raw horsepower. 3D printers lined one wall, humming like industrial beehives. Rows of dev bays stretched across the room, glowing with multi-screen setups, cooling rigs, servers, prototype shells. In the center, a full test lab environment with VR simulation rigs, mobile kiosks, and remote access stations. Floors were epoxy-coated and spotless. Every station labeled, wired, documented. Derek froze 3 steps in. What the hell is this place? My tech lab, I said. Built it 3 years ago. Paid cash. 4.1 million, all from net profit. He turned in a slow circle, trying to take it in. I pointed to the back wall, frame patents, at least a dozen. Adaptive learning platforms, remote access security layers, AI-based skill assessment tools, all proprietary. He walked over to one and leaned in. This is yours? Filed under my company's, I said. I keep the IP consolidated. He looked around again, like his brain still hadn't caught up. This looks like something out of Silicon Valley, I nodded. Because it is, just not the kind you see in magazines. We walked through the lab, At one station, a 3D printer was building a modular housing case for mobile servers. At another, a team of virtual assistants worked in a mirrored environment. Live simulations, code testing, automated debugging. This is where we build the software that runs everything you saw earlier, I said. These tools train thousands across 21 states. Some use it through colleges, some through workforce programs, some through prison rehabilitation contracts. Derek ran a hand through his hair. I don't even know what to say. You don't have to, I said. But for the record, this isn't a passion project. It's national infrastructure. We've got federal contracts, private licensing, and active partnerships with Microsoft and IBM. He turned to me. Microsoft? Department of Labor, too. Department of Education. We just got a long-term state contract out of Colorado. Built a skill-building portal for rural students with limited internet access. Works offline. Syncs when it gets a signal. He looked at the testing rig like it was magic. This all runs through 3 main pipelines, I went on. Platform 1 is for trade school conversions. Platform 2 is for corporate outplacement. Platform 3, our newest, is direct to individual, community-supported, state-subsidized. And this has been running, how long? He asked. 6 years since launch, 9 in development. He sat down on the edge of a workstation, shaking his head. I thought you were just some stubborn dude trying to play the good guy. I walked over to the center table and dropped a few printed contracts in front of him. Dept of labor header, Microsoft seals, IBM licensing codes. He didn't touch them, just stared. You thought I was small, I said, because I let you. He looked up at me, silent. I don't make noise, I said. I build. And I could tell, for the first time, he believed it. Derek was still sitting there, silent, his eyes stuck on the contracts when I walked over to the main console and woke the screen. Come here, I said. He stood up slow, like he was worried touching something might set off a launch code. The dashboards came alive, stacked panels of live metrics, graphs, and geomaps across the country. These are our current users, I said, pointing to the top left. Active right now, 48,000 across 19 states, mostly workforce dev and college programs. He leaned in. All real-time? Yep. Here's school districts, 267 active contracts, 62 at the enterprise level. That's K-12, trade schools, and community colleges. All paid. I clicked over to revenue. Monthly gross right now is around 7 million. That's with a daily average of 240,000. He glanced at me sideways. Daily? Margins run a little over 40%. We're lean, mostly because we build in-house. No licensing fees, no middlemen. He didn't say a word. Just stared like his brain was recalculating everything he thought he knew about what I did. I pulled up another dashboard, this one dark-themed, tagged impact, community side. These are the numbers you'll never hear about at dinner, I said. Scholarships funded, 341. Laptops donated, 8,012. Training centers built, 37. Total community investment, $19.6 million over the past 6 years. Derek blinked hard. Wait, you just give that away? No, I said. I reinvest. We partner with cities, nonprofits, schools. Government matches a lot of it, multiplies the reach. I clicked again. Map of the U.S. lit up with pins and zones. Blue for active users, green for support centers, orange for pending expansions. He just stood there watching the numbers shift and refresh, data ticking like a heartbeat. People think community work means giving up profit, I said. They're wrong. It means knowing where to build leverage. I don't donate scraps. I scale opportunity. He leaned in closer to the screen. How is this not all over the news? Because I'm not chasing headlines, I said. I'm building systems that don't need me in front of a mic to function. He watched a ticker scroll by on the edge of the screen. Server load balancing, real-time bandwidth stats, feedback scores from 200,000 post-training surveys. This isn't a job, he said finally. No, I said. It's a machine. I built it piece by piece. He looked at me now, really looked, like he was seeing someone he hadn't met before. All those years, you let us think you were broke, he said. I wasn't broke, I replied. I was busy. Derek stepped back, hands on his hips, head shaking slow. This is next level, he muttered. No, I said. This is just what happens when you stop trying to be seen. and start building things that last. The dashboard pulsed again. Another school system logged in, another district activated. He watched the numbers climb in silence. We stepped out of the lab and walked in silence back toward the driveway. Crickets were out now, quiet hum of nighttime settling over the block. The Fusion sat there like it always did, dull silver under the streetlight. Derek didn't say a word until we reached the curb. Then he let out a breath and sat down on the edge of the driveway, elbows on his knees, looking like someone just unplugged him. "Man," he said, shaking his head, "we thought you were barely getting by." I leaned against the hood of the Fusion, arms crossed. "You didn't think? You assumed." He nodded slowly. "Yeah, we did." He stared at the ground for a long second, then looked up at me. "You weren't just proving us wrong. You never cared about proving anything, did you?" "Nope. You could have shut us up any time." I shrugged. "Why waste time trying to impress people I'm not trying to be?" He let that one sit. Then he looked up at the house again. Plain, small porch light, quiet yard. "All this time, I thought success was showing it," he said. "Lana, Mom, even Dad. We just wanted you to catch up." "I wasn't behind," I said. "I just didn't play the game you all thought mattered." He looked up at the Fusion and laughed, a real one this time. "I gotta admit," he said, "this thing suddenly looks smarter than my Porsche." "It always was," I said, "just not louder." He nodded again, slower this time, like he was absorbing every word. Then he looked over at me. "What do I tell Lana?" I reached into my back pocket and pulled out my business card. Just my name and a single black logo on the front. No title, no website. I handed it to him. "Tell her I'll bring a real car next time." He grinned. "The McLaren?" I shook my head. "Not the one she expects." Derek flipped the card over, saw it was blank on the back. "You really don't give them anything to go off, huh?" "If they want to know what I do, they can Google the logo," I said. "If they don't care enough to ask, they don't matter." He stood up and looked at me like he finally saw the full picture. No more judgment, just realization. "You built all this," he said, quietly, patiently. "While you were talking," I said, "I was building." He nodded again, stuck the card in his jacket pocket, and looked back at the Fusion. "Funny," he said, "all these years we thought you were the one stuck in neutral." I pushed off the hood and opened the car door. "Nope," I said. "I've been in drive the whole time." Derek took a step back toward his Porsche, hand still in his jacket pocket where he'd slipped the card. He paused, glanced over his shoulder at me. "One last thing," he said. "What's your net worth?" I didn't even blink. "North of 90 million, depends on the market, sometimes more." He turned his whole body this time, not just his head. Stared at the Fusion like it had shape-shifted into something he couldn't understand. "That's insane," he said under his breath. "You're driving a 12-year-old Ford with a 9-figure balance sheet." "Because I don't need my car to do the talking." Just then, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I checked it. Text from Melissa, my COO. Big news. Philly District approved. 13.2 meters. Full rollout. Hybrid youth training. Let's go. I smiled, tapped out a quick, "Got it. I'll loop in contracts team," then looked up. Derek was watching me, arms crossed now. "Good news?" "Yeah," I said. "Biggest rollout yet. Major city district. 13.2 million. Hybrid job training for underserved youth." His jaw tensed just slightly. Not from jealousy, just stunned again. That kind of stun that rewrites everything. "You didn't need our approval," he said. "You were playing a whole different game." I nodded. "That's what you missed. I wasn't chasing attention. I was building systems. Quiet ones." He let out a slow breath and finally cracked a tired smile. "We talked like you were the dropout cousin we had to rescue." I shrugged. "That's the thing about wealth," I said. "Real wealth builds things. It doesn't need to shout. It just leaves results behind." He nodded once, long and slow, like the last wall in his head finally dropped. "All right," he said, stepping toward his Porsche. "I get it now. I know." He opened the door, but before getting in, he looked back one more time. "You ever need anything? Advice, support, whatever. Just ask." I smirked. "Thanks, but I think I've got it covered." He laughed, the first real one I'd heard from him all night, then slipped behind the wheel. He pulled off slow, no tire screech, no engine roar. Just gone. I watched the taillights disappear around the corner, then headed back toward the house. Halfway up the steps, my phone buzzed again. New email, subject line, depth of energy, request for strategic call, retraining proposal attached. I tapped the notification open, already skimming the PDF as I reached the door. Same old house, same old porch. But everything had shifted, just not in the way they expected. The next month, I pulled into the Riverside Country Club lot. This time, not in the Fusion. I came in low and clean behind the wheel of the McLaren, graphite paint gleaming under the midday sun. The exhaust barely whispered as I rolled past the front entrance. Heads turned, valets paused mid-sprint. Mom and Dad were already on the patio, and both stood when they saw it. Lana was halfway through a mimosa. Glass froze at her lips. Her mouth dropped slightly as I stepped out in jeans and a black t-shirt. No blazer, no dress shoes, just me. Derek was the first one to move. He broke away from the table and met me halfway with that same quiet grin. He didn't say a word, just a slight nod that said everything. We walked up together. The chatter around the tables picked up the second I passed. Not loud, but curious, focused. I didn't rush, didn't smile for anyone who hadn't earned it. Even Mom, in her usual pearls and polished tone, didn't say anything about my outfit. Dad straightened up as I approached, eyes scanning me, like he was seeing someone else entirely. At the table, the usual suspects were already seated, friends of my parents, spouses of CEOs, city council folks. But no one asked what I did this time. Mrs. Henderson leaned over during the salad course. I heard your software was adopted by the university system. That's just wonderful. I nodded. Appreciate that, Mrs. Henderson. Gave her a firm handshake and left it there. Dad looked at me different after that. Not with pride exactly, but like something finally clicked into place. Lana didn't say much until after dessert. She waited until we were standing near the valet again. So, she said, what is it you actually do? I looked at her, calm and clear. I build things that last. She blinked once, like she didn't know how to respond. I didn't wait for one. As I walked toward the McLaren, Derek followed me out. Right before I got in, he clapped me once on the back. They'll never look at you the same again, he said. I didn't answer. I was already behind the wheel, engine rumbling beneath me. Some people need to win the argument. Me? I just let them follow me home.